So in this video, I want to talk really briefly about how to diagnose a flake. So there is some threshold by which a test suite is identified as being flaky from the perspective of the test grid dashboard versus failing, but there's sort of an extra layer of interpretation needed to actually decide to open an issue for a flaky test. So the general rule of thumb is that a flaky test needs to show some pattern of behavior. And so first off, you probably need flake to have happened more than once recently for you to meaningfully interpret whether it's a flake or not. This isn't necessarily always the case because it's possible that past the, way further down in terms of not the last 10 runs, but, maybe like the 11th or something, or like the 11th, 12th, and 13th, there's something visible in there. So definitely feel free to click into ones that have only had one failure in its past threshold of runs. But it's comparatively unlikely that you'll be able to find a pattern in cases where the most recently tracked runs from the perspective of this dashboard summary, that there's only one of them. So in general, you're looking for stuff that has more than one failure in the past while. And then the other thing is that we're looking, as mentioned, we're looking for a pattern of behavior. So we're looking for the same source, root cause, to have occurred several times. So here we have sort of two failures recently, but they're not exhibiting the same behavior even purely just from this test grid view, right? So over here we have this cube test diff resources, which seems to have been the source of the failure over here. Over here, like a bunch of stuff didn't run. It's likely that some sort of build error infrastructure problem happened here that is not the same as this. But if we actually scroll over, we'll see that there is a pattern of behavior for this failure for this cube test diff resources. So it seems to often flake, and so this gives us a reason to believe that this is an actual meaningful flake. The last bit to connect the dots on is to actually click in to a couple of these and see, is this actually the same error? So with a pattern of behavior like this, it's very likely, but worth checking anyways. So we'll go in here and see what the problem is. So we have this error here, 2 leaked resources. This one, error 2 leaked resources. This one also looks the same. It's not necessary that you completely figure out what has happened, but the fact that these are all having the same issue gives, and are all for the same test, gives us reason to believe that this is a flake. So let's compare this to a less obvious case. So I'm going to go over here. Where we also have some recent failures, but we can see that for these two, it looks like it's in the same test, but over here it was this other test. So it's not clear exactly what the pattern is, and it looks like there's a ton of green in the past, but if we keep scrolling back, we'll see that this DNS horizontal autoscaling was also a problem in the past. So this one's a little bit more spread out. It's not as regular. If we were maybe in the past and had only seen it like 1 or 2 times with wide gaps, you might still hold on to it, maybe put it in the observing category so that you or your teammates know to check on it later. But once we have seen it pop up a couple times, especially in quick succession in terms of like within maybe like 2 or 3 days of each other, and then especially if we click in and maybe cross-reference this recent one with maybe this one that happened a while ago and see if they're having the same problem. So it looks like we have some timed out problem here. Looks like it was also timed out problem a couple days ago. So this is also the type of case where you can see that there's still a pattern even though it's on a longer time horizon. Especially these type of timeout ones can be super intermittent and resource dependent. So they exhibit less obvious patterns of behavior, but this is the type of thing that is still worth flagging, so we can help the testing ops and testing infrastructure team decide if there's something to do there, or for the SIG to change timeouts or restructure how things are set up or torn down so that this test can become more reliable. So those are a couple tips for figuring out if something is a flake. Overall, needs to exhibit some pattern of behavior. Make sure to do a little scrolling to keep digging in, but especially look for similar or same error messages across some time horizon, and then feel free to open a flake for the relevant SIG. And I hope that helped.